Okay, today we're going to be looking at estimating products of fractions. By the end of this lesson, you want to be able to estimate the product of fractions using compatible numbers and by rounding. So what do I mean when I say compatible numbers? Compatible numbers are numbers that multiply easily mentally, so in your head. So for example, for a party I bought 13 sandwiches. If my son Josh ate 1/4 of them, about how many sandwiches did he eat? So I know that I brought 13 sandwiches. And Josh ate 1/4 of them. Now, of typically means multiplication. So I'm doing 13 times 1/4. But because it says about, I know that I can estimate. So 13 times 1/4 is not a super easy number to work with. So we can actually use compatible numbers. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the denominator. So in this case, it's 4. Then we're going to take our whole number and change it into a number that's close to it that is a multiple of 4. In this case, 12 would be the closest number to 13 that's a multiple of 4. And now I can do 12 times 1/4. And the reason we do that is, remember, 12 is really 12 over 1, so it becomes 12 over 4, or 12 divided by 4, which would be 3. So Josh ate about 3 sandwiches. So why don't you go ahead and try the next one on your own. For our fundraiser, my husband made 11 Christmas wreaths, and 2/5 of them sold on the first day. About how many sold the first day? So he's made 11, and 2/5 of them sold on the first day. So once again, we're going to use compatible numbers. So the closest multiple of 5, because that's our denominator, to 11 would be 10. So now we're going to do 2/5 of that, and there's a couple different ways that you could do this. We can either multiply across and make this 10 times 2, which would be 20 over 5, which would give us about 4 wreaths, or we could do 10 divided by 5, which would be 2, and then multiply it by 2, which would also give us the 4 wreaths. When you're estimating the product of a fraction and a whole number, find a whole number that is compatible with the denominator of the fraction to make it easier to do. Alright, what happens if there was 7/8 of a pizza left after lunch and someone came in and ate 1/3 of what was left? We want to know about how much of the original pizza did the mystery person eat. So 7/8, and then they ate 1/3 of that. But because once again it says about, we're looking to estimate. Now this is a little bit different than when we were doing it with whole numbers. Now we just want to look, and because remember, another method of estimating is rounding. So 7/8 is about 1. So we're going to make this 1. Now we could leave it as 1/3, or we could change it to 1/2, because 1/3 is pretty close to 1/2. So this would be 1 times 1/2, or the person ate about half of the pizza. So anywhere between a half to a third. Alright, so why don't you go ahead and pause the video and try the next one on your own. I know this one seems a little confusing. I had 5/8 of my paycheck left after paying the bills this month. Then I spent 9/10 of that on some new clothes. About how much of my paycheck did I spend on new clothes? So I have 5/8 left, and I spent 9/10 of that on new clothes. Well, 5/8 is pretty close to a half, so I had about half my paycheck left. And if I spent 9/10 of that on new clothes, I spent about all of it on new clothes, because 9/10 is pretty close to 1. So we would say that I spent about half my money on new clothes. So remember, to estimate the product of two fractions, we're going to round each fraction to the nearest half. So what happens when I have a flower bed at my house that measures 6 1/3 feet by 14 7/8 feet, and I want to estimate the area of my flower bed? And we're going to assume that the flower bed is rectangular because of the measurements they gave us. And remember, to find the area of a rectangle, we're going to do length times width. In this case, we don't know which one is which, but remember, multiplication, the order doesn't matter. So I have 6 1/3 third times 14 and 7/8. But because I'm estimating, remember we could use one of our methods of estimating. What do you think might work here? I'm going to say that rounding to the nearest whole number is probably the easiest. So 6 1/3 would round to 6. 14 and 7/8 is actually closer to 15. So we would do 6 times 15, which, if you don't know that in your head, remember you can break up the 15 into 10 and 5. So 6 times 10 would be 60. 6 times 5 would be 30. So 6 times 15 would be 90 feet, and it's an area, so it would be 90 feet squared. Alright, so why don't you go ahead and pause the video and try the next one on your own. Alright, if we're looking at that, a border around another garden is made up by 32 and 2/3 bricks that are 1 1/6 feet long. But how long is the border around this garden? Because now we're talking about around the garden, we're talking about perimeter. So remember, perimeter, we add up all the sides. So if it helps, here's my picture. So each brick is 1 1/6 feet long, and actually they tell us that the perimeter is made up of 32 and 2/3 bricks. So we can do 32 and 2/3 bricks times their length, which is 1 1/6. 32 and 2/3 is really closest to 33. 1 1/6 is closest to 1. So it's about 33 feet long. So to estimate the product of two mixed numbers, we're going to round each mixed number to the nearest whole.